Service. This is a weekly podcast where we interview seasoned service-based business owners. Super excited for this episode because the person that I'm interviewing, I worked for his company and learned a ton, and it will be an amazing conversation. I will be quiet and I will pass it over to Zach. Zach, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I've been following along on this new podcast series. And you're just absolutely on point. My name is Zach Cohen. I've been part of the Junkluggers since inception. I was 17 years old when my brother said, "Hey, why don't we start a business together?" And now 20 plus years later, we were recently acquired by Authority Brands, which is owned by Apex, a private equity firm. And I've done every position under the moon when it comes to a service-based brand. The Junkluggers is an eco-friendly furniture and removal company that specializes on donations, reuse, and recycling. How do we specialize on donations? Well, in New York City alone last year, we were able to divert 75,000 pieces of furniture and items and give it back to the community. And we do this through Remix Market, which is our sister company. So it's something I'm very passionate about. And, obviously it didn't start off this way, but it's turned out to be 100 plus franchises nationwide. If you've seen our bright green billboard trucks all around the road, hopefully they got two hands on the wheel and they're paying attention. But something I'm very passionate about, entrepreneurship and not working 9 to 5 and being in charge of your own destiny. So thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to talk about service-based brands.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Zach. So it's really interesting because I started at the Junkluggers in September of 2020, and during my time there, I think that's when the company really experienced its most rapid growth. I think obviously COVID had a lot to do with that huge spike in growth, but do you think there were any other sort of things that led to growing?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, people see a business as an overnight success, right? A lot of time when you're on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, you see someone who has 1 million plus followers who figured it all out. They've got flashy cars. They've got everything under the sun, but really it's those 15 years of hard work, putting your head down, grinding that led to that moment. And I think that's really what happened with Junkluggers. For 10 plus years, we were kind of laughed about. Why are two Jewish kids from Trumbull, Connecticut? Why are they in the garbage business? And then, as we started to build out the business, we started to get super passionate about furniture and donations and seeing our niche in the market. That's when we really started to pivot and really specialize in being the green friendly junk removal company. There's a lot of businesses out there that say they are eco-friendly, right? And we were talking about it earlier, but greenwashing, how it's used as a marketing technique. We've got an entire team dedicated to the donations, reuse, and recycling aspect in both of our locations that I'm overseeing in Connecticut and New York City. And that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's money that could go to our bottom line. But because we're so passionate about it, I feel like the long-term benefit and ROI would have always outweighed it. And obviously selling our company in 2022 proved that our theory was correct. So yes, COVID was a huge boost. We ended up selling 60 plus franchises during that time. But also it was all the hard work that went before it that really set us up for success. If we started to create this business in 2020 and then COVID happened, we probably wouldn't be as successful as we were about putting in the work before the big COVID boom.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously social media can be a great thing for growing your business, but you don't see what goes on behind the scenes that leads up to that moment. So you said that, very, very well said, Zach. And I wholeheartedly agree. It takes It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of hours. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of, you know, it takes a lot of resources. It just takes a shit ton of work. So appreciate you highlighting that. And, you know, obviously it's, you know, the Junkluggers has been able to grow in such an amazing way. And I think being eco-friendly was a huge part of that to really stand out from the competition. And for you, wanted to ask, when you first started out, what was a challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it?
Every challenge you could ever possibly imagine, I've seen. You know, a couple stand out to me the most. And I think for people that are watching this, entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. Right now, it's a very flashy thing on social media. Even when I'm going to, you know, now I have kids and I'm going to kids' birthday parties and I meet the other parents, they look at me like, wow, an entrepreneur. You know, it's such a positive limelight right now in our society. But it's not for everyone. You know, there's things that being an entrepreneur aren't talked about enough. And I feel like I'm such a proponent of being honest and open about it, but it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a high risk, high reward scheme. And I feel like that's why I love the viewpoint that you're going with this podcast, because you're really trying to get back to the grassroots, which is service-based brands, which is how this country was built on, right? Yeah. Now everything is owned by large corporations. You know, you go down to New York City, all the mom and pop shops closed because they couldn't keep up with the cost and just the rising of everything. And I think when you look at an entrepreneur, you know, for 15 plus years, I know we've talked about this already, but I was gambling my own family's money. And it got to a point where, you know, my emotional state of mind was based upon how we were doing as a business. And it wouldn't have been possible without such a strong support system behind me, which obviously my wife, Danielle, my family, my brother, my friends really believing in me. But one thing that really stands out in the beginning, which is very different to how I act now, is in the beginning as an entrepreneur, you want to be everything. And you want to be in control of every aspect of every part of the business. And I feel like that's where a lot of service-based brands kind of plateau because they want to be the boss. They want to be the worker. They want to be the administrative. They want to do the accounting. They want to do sales. And, you know, I tried to do that at the beginning. And after about 2 years of people constantly quitting on me and threatening me and wanting to kick the shit out of me and, you know, just everything under the sun, I realized I can't be a dictator. No one wants to work for someone who they do not trust and believe and respect. So it was about 2 years into the business, I realized, okay, I need to rein back. I need to start developing my soft skills, which is being a strong leader, leading from behind, and really starting to trust and respect the people around me and start lifting those people up to start being successful. So from about year 2 to year 10, I was paying people more than I was paying myself.
Wow.
And sure, at the time, it's very confusing. And, you know, everyone around me is like, why are you working so hard to make $30,000, $40,000? But you as an entrepreneur, you're not doing it for the money. Because we all know you could work for corporate America and make 6 figures nowadays. You're just going to be miserable. Right. And money doesn't make you happy. Money might add a lot of benefits that you wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have money. But the most important things in life are health, your family, and being able to have an open mind where you're able to have these experiences that you normally wouldn't. So I decided for about 8 years that I wasn't going to focus on money and I was just going to put my head down and work and build leaders around me. And that's when we started really having insane growth. From about year 2 to about year 10, we were doing 33% growth year over year. So every 3 years, we were growing about 100%.
Oh my gosh.
And at the time, it's so overwhelming. But another part of entrepreneurs, which I'm sure you're going to see a theme going as you continue interviewing more business owners, is we are thrill seekers. We love the chase of the thrill, right? Like you have a win and then all of a sudden you're starting to think about what the other wins are. So that took me a very long time to realize I need to step back and appreciate where I was without moving on to what my next goal was. So these are just a couple things that go on, and I wouldn't have necessarily been able to accomplish this if I didn't have such strong mentors around me. If I wasn't doing these networking groups like Entrepreneurs Organization, BNI, these people around me were way more successful, way older than me. Now I'm 37, but like I said, I started this business when I was 17 years old. And if people looked at me as a 20-year-old, I wouldn't have been able to get where I was. So there was a lot of people that stood behind me and supported me. And that's why I try to give back to the community and to entrepreneurs as much as possible now, because if it wasn't for those people believing in me, I wouldn't have believed in myself.
Zach, 110%. You are so well articulated. I would say that you should start your own podcast, which you have, which we can talk about that a little bit later. And speaking about giving back, when I was raising funds for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, I texted you my donation link, and literally I think within like 5 minutes you had made your, you are so quick to make a donation. So you are very, very giving, and you love to support and lift up the people who are around you, which I think is what true leadership is. And it was very evident when I worked with the Junkluggers, and it was just
I mean, we have 100 employees in New York City. We have 70 employees in Connecticut. You can't do everything. If you want to build a successful business, if you're watching this right now and you want to build a successful business, the sooner you realize that the sooner you build leaders, the better off you'll be. Like, I get this all the time. Zach, I'm making $200,000 gross sales a year. I'm netting $50,000 a year. I can't afford to pay someone 6 figures, right? You're not looking hard enough, because not everyone needs money right now. Can you sell them on the vision? Can you sell them on what the journey is going to look like? Can you sell them on the fact that they're going to have a culture? A lot of businesses don't have cultures. Can you sell them on the fact that as we continue to grow the business, you will make more money? A lot of times when you work for a large corporation, if you do awesome in 1 year, they give you 5%. If you were part of me during years 2 through years 15, on average, I was increasing our coworkers' salaries by 25% for the studs, for the A players. Wow. So sure, in the beginning, you were making nothing compared to your friends and your peers. But if you stuck with me and I believed in you, and I wasn't giving out any handouts. Everyone around me right now will admit, I never was just giving money because I knew Zach. I only gave people money whose value outweighed the cost to have them part of the business. And there's been a lot of times where I had to let go of super close friends that I loved and I still love and I still stay in contact with, because of the fact that I was paying them more than the value they were adding to the company. So you can't just think of it, like if someone were to start a business right now, you could find someone who's 16, 17 years old, pay them $10 an hour, but really embrace them, buy them books, take them out for lunch. Lunch costs $20, and that $20 might pay you 10x dividends, 20x dividends. So I get very upset when people tell me I can't afford high quality workers, because the answer is you're just not looking hard enough. Stop looking at your phone while you're driving your car and start looking the fuck up, looking who's around you, driving other cars. When you go to Starbucks or whatever, hopefully you're not just supporting Starbucks and you're going to a local coffee shop. Talk to that barista. Are they in a situation where you could potentially poach them? Some of my best hires ever work somewhere else, and I realized their potential when their other boss didn't. So I focused on creating a relationship, right? Because you don't want to just go after someone right away.
Right.
You want to get their information, constantly stay in touch with them, nurture that relationship. Wait until they're all of a sudden need a drastic change, whether their business fired them or they're ready for a change, whatever the case is. I want to make sure that I'm that person who's waiting there when they're ready to make a change. I don't want to force anyone to change. And right now, as you know, I'm looking for future leaders, not only in Junkluggers, but also in whatever my future venture is. So this is why I'm out there right now, networking, giving back to the community, because I'm trying to figure out who's going to go with me next time around.
Zach, I could listen to you for hours, but I know that we only have another 20 minutes. That's awesome. Yeah, it's super important to keep in touch with people regardless of where your life takes you, because you'll never know when you'll need them again. And, it's always good to obviously not only look for people who can serve you, but, ways for you to serve the people who are in your sphere as well, which obviously, is key. But yeah, super, super well said. Obviously, the Junkluggers stands out in many ways from its competition, and I could rattle off 100 ways personally. But from your perspective, what makes the Junkluggers stand out from the competition?
I think as a entrepreneur, as a service-based brand, you have to be careful not to say things like, we have amazing customer service. Our guys are amazing. We're going to show up on time. We're going to give you a price guarantee. These are things that every business is going to say, whether they succeed or not. So you need to have a value proposition that's different than others. So one thing that I always talk about when I meet another entrepreneur is iPhones, right? iPhones, they cost $1,000. Samsungs are probably better products, but they cost half the price, right? So why are people spending money and not even flinching an eye to get the newest iPhone or the newest AirPods, whatever the newest Apple product is? Their value proposition is so strong that price is no objection with most of their customers, right? Or if price is an issue, they would rather save up money and instead of investing it, save it up to get the newest product, right? When you break down something like Apple, what is their value proposition? It's that they're seamless. They have this cutting technology. It's that you're going to feel like you're an outsider if you don't have an iPhone. If you text someone who has a green bubble, you're immediately like, what the hell is wrong with this person? Thinking about that in terms of Junkluggers, our value proposition had to be different than our competition. And our value proposition is giving back to the community, not just saying that we're going to do it, but actually doing it and doing it in a way that's seamless, right? So if this was 20 plus years ago, our value proposition would sound very similar to Goodwill or Salvation Army. We're a donation center. You're able to drop off items, and you're going to get a tax deductible receipt. Anyone that's gone to a donation center recently realizes it's not run like that anymore. So what we focused on is, how can we come to Brandon's house? How can we remove an unwanted piece of furniture like a couch? Maybe Brandon's moving, or maybe Brandon's upgrading because you got this sick new job and you finally can get that beautiful couch you always wanted. But that piece of couch that you have in your house right now is not garbage, right? So what do we do with that to show you that we respect your piece of furniture and all of the memories that come with it are not going to be thrown away in a landfill? So what I like to tell our customers is, when we show up to your house, that's only half of the magic. The magic that really happens is our guys bringing it out to our trucks, putting it in a way that shows respect to your items.
Definitely.
Then they're going to come back to our warehouse. We're going to sort through all the items. We're going to separate the donations, reuse, and recycling. We're going to then take that nice couch that should have a second home. We're going to bring it over to Remix Market, and we're going to give it back to the community for pennies on the dollar for what it would cost if you wanted to go to a store and buy it. So that is our value proposition. For a while we were nervous that if we talked about Remix Market, that it was going to cannibalize our Junklugger business. and that people are going to want discounts. But what we've really realized in the last, let's say, five plus years is this is just one big cycle that actually builds more credibility behind our value proposition.
For sure.
So how do we talk about it more and communicate it more and be proud of it? Well, one of the biggest things that happened in New York City in August and that rolled into September is giving back to the teachers. So we created this reel. Mary Townsend, our donations coordinator, created this reel. It got 250,000 views. Wow. It got 5,000 shares. And we're still giving furniture to teachers because everyone knows that teachers usually spend their own money to get furniture in their classroom because no schools are the most underfunded organizations, right? So we were able to give over 500 plus teachers in New York City desks, chairs, microwaves, anything you can imagine, give it back to the teachers for $0. And that kind of value proposition will go much farther than the amount of cost that it costs us to bring it back to our warehouse, store it, and then use our guys to load up these cars and trucks.
Definitely. Yeah, Zach, it's pretty incredible. Obviously, just hearing you talk about it and, just having experienced it, it's a win-win. It's a win because you're keeping items out of the landfill. It's a win because you're able to repurpose those items and that furniture and be able to sell it at a discount. And the customer is also receiving a tax-deductible receipt as well. So, it's pretty incredible when you think about it.
And something that I'm super passionate about is, you and I have been talking behind the scenes about service-based brands and mom and pop shops that don't know what to do and they want to retire and they're getting older. You don't have to be a genius in the sense of you need to think of a brand new innovation. Mm-hmm. Most people come up to me and they're like, this is such a good idea. Why didn't I think of it? It's not like we thought of it. We just thought of a way that we could create our own niche in the market. And I think if you are stuck right now staring at a computer, miserable as fuck, and every single day your alarm goes off and you're snoozing because you don't want to wake up and start your day, think about what brands are staring at a computer, miserable as fuck, and every single day your alarm goes off and you're snoozing because you don't want to wake up and start your day. Think about what brands are out there right now, what services are out there, that there is a kink in the process. And don't be afraid you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like there's a lot of things out there right now where I feel like the demand is higher than the service is. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is a prime opportunity for someone who wants to get in a service-based business to take advantage of,
Yeah, it's someone
who wants to get in a service-based business to take advantage of,
Yeah, it's pretty insane the amount of people who own a service-based businesses or who own a service-based business, and there's a lot of inefficiencies with how they operate, and the ability to capitalize is pretty substantial, but people aren't really talking about it. So I appreciate you highlighting that.
Yeah.
So a few more final questions. Obviously, I know you have a business partner, your brother. Do you think it's important for every business to have two partners, or do you think
my thoughts are you have to be very careful with partnerships. People a lot of times are afraid to make the jump without a partner. And when you create a partnership, just like a marriage, you have to respect that person 50-50. Mm-hmm. So, working with family, not just Josh, but we've had a lot of family and friends that have worked at the Junkluggers. It is very difficult. My brother and I are very close. He's one of my best friends, but we think very differently when it comes to strategy, execution, what's important, what's not important. So my recommendation is for anyone, no matter what kind of business it is, if you can have 100% equity in a business, you should go for it. Especially in the beginning when you don't know what the potential is. Because every partner you bring in is just cutting that share of the pizza into smaller pieces. Now, obviously, Josh and I had different equity in different aspects of the business. So we did still have a partnership. It just wasn't, let's call it a traditional sense. But if you're going to do it, take it very seriously, and really lay it out there. One thing that you and I have talked about is, so now we're getting into real estate ventures together, and I'm not 17 anymore, right? I'm 37 years old. So we're really laying it out there, operating agreements, partnership agreements, really making sure we're defining what this partnership looks like. People would look at that and they'd be like, you guys are brothers. What's wrong with you, right? But we know what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. And I think the more open and honest you can be, it just saves a lot of headaches later down the road. So I talk to entrepreneurs all the time right now that want to buy out their partner. And any business is going to want, the partner's going to want more money than you're going to be able to give them for a buyout agreement. So that's why before it's worth nothing and it's just a vision, really lay it out there. Think about any avenue. What happens if your partner gets sick? What happens if you need to start injecting more money in it? What does that look like? What if your partner gets another business opportunity? Now Brandon's working full time and the other person's only working at nighttime. What happens if all of a sudden Brandon has a kid, right? And he has to take time off. So these kind of situations, you really got to map out because life is unpredictable. And just because you're a hard worker and I'm a hard worker doesn't mean that it's always going to look the same and feel equal. And the worst thing that I've seen for a business is partners shitting on each other. So,
yeah, absolutely. I think there's always points of contention when one partner feels like they're outworking the other partner, and it's not a good feeling, and it makes working with them not as joyous as it once was. So it's sage advice, and to have all of your T's crossed, your I's dotted, and just to have everything laid out. That's awesome, Zach. 3 more questions outside of the Junkluggers. So number 1, if you weren't in your current line of work, what else could you see yourself doing?
To stay in line with what this topic is about, I think growing up, my father owned an accounting firm. We grew up in a very middle income, modest home in Trumbull, Connecticut. And I think he really harped on me how important it was. Accounting is a language that a lot of people don't speak. So I ended up going to the University of Connecticut, majoring accounting. That is by far my value add for Junkluggers, for business in general. A lot of times when I work with other entrepreneurs, I tell them, send me your financials. We'll go over it together. I'll give you my opinion. So I think, it's not the flashiest part of a business, but it is literally the fundamental backbone to understanding if a business is worth it or not. So I really hated accounting for many years, and I feel like now it's become my superpower. And that's really my love language. Like I can look at any business and I can really tell how healthy it is based upon their financials.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't know your numbers, it's very scary, and it's pivotal, especially if you want to buy a business as well. So it's really, really interesting that you mentioned that. And what is something that nobody or that very few people know about you?
I think that it might be shocking to people, but I feel like I'm still trying to get comfortable in my own skin. I always felt like I was an outsider or a misfit in middle school and high school. I always felt like my priorities were always so different than my peers.
Mm-hmm.
In college, I got a little bit more comfortable in my skin, but I always had that fear of like, how am I going to be, successful, whatever success looks like to a person. And then when I started with Junkluggers, I was always afraid that people were only going to think I was successful because of my brother. So I think, looking at the last 37 years and looking at my next future 37 years, I'm really interested in getting into something that really makes me feel comfortable in my own skin and makes me feel confident that I'm able to give back to how beautiful this world has been to me, and how fortunate I've been in this world. Being a father now, I get so passionate listening to my daughter talk about what her dreams and aspirations are. One thing that is so incredible is like, since my daughter's been born, I've been battling cancer, and hearing a 4-year-old talk about how she wants to be a doctor is so powerful, right? Because she wants to take care of her dad.
Wow.
So I think when I hear things like that, I just want to be a voice that's able to tell people like, set really high expectations for yourself. Set goals that almost feel unachievable, because that really is what makes someone feel like they have a purpose and a passion in life. And I think you look at this 15-year journey that took me to where I am right now, because most people now look at me, they meet me, they know Junkluggers, they think of me as successful. But that was a long journey. And to me, I know, but what I'm really excited about is figuring out what my next 15-year journey is, because that's the kind of things that's going to motivate me when days are tough. And, I have to go to cancer doctors and get, in a couple weeks, I'm going to have to go through, which I know, from your father, all the scans and blood works and MRIs. And, you sit in an MRI machine that's blaring as loud as possible in your ears. And you think to yourself, like, how the fuck did this happen, right? But those motivating factors outside, whether it's professional or personal, really push you up in those times that it feels like life has gotten too overwhelming where you don't know where to go. So I'm excited about creating adventures now that maybe will outlive me. What is a 15-year journey look like now? Because that's really the part that gets me excited on a day-to-day basis.
Zach, just very, very well said. I'm very excited for when you'll finally announce that you'll have a TED Talk, because I'll be the first one in attendance. And the very, very last question, if people want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Well, now being close friends with you, I know how important LinkedIn is. And I've been really trying. I'm not good at social media, but I'm really trying to be more public, not only professionally, but personally on LinkedIn. So follow me on LinkedIn. You can listen to the podcasts that are getting released every other week. You can see the journey with Junkluggers and Authority Brands. You can see things that I'm passionate about. I'm starting to teach at University of Connecticut, entrepreneurship class. And I think just the world needs more people that are honest and open about the fact that it's not just all sunshine and rainbows.
100%, Zach. Very, very well said, and appreciate you chatting. This was an awesome conversation.
I'll leave you with this. As an entrepreneur, you need to wake up every single day and you need to focus on 3 things. Set the strategy, keep the money in the bank, and hire the best people. So if you're watching this right now and you feel like, what did I actually accomplish today? Or I had a super productive day. If it is not focusing on setting the strategy, keeping the money in the bank, or hiring the best people, keep working, because that is the most important thing to creating a successful business, legacy, whatever you want to call it. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. You know, a lot of people are going to be in the same position 10 years down the road because they're too afraid to make a mistake in what other people think of you.
Mm-hmm.
The more I meet entrepreneurs, the more I get excited about our future as a civilization. It's the people that are not afraid to take a new path. You know, we talk about as child that we should conform to society and that we should follow the same path that everyone else is. But everyone that's part of our society nowadays, whether you think Elon Musk is powerful or a complete jackass, whether you think that Zuckerberg or Bezos or whoever the entrepreneurship is, those people were misfits. They were outsiders, right? And it takes a while for those people to then be celebrated as human beings. Because nowadays we're calling them autistic or they have Asperger's or they're socially awkward, right? But those people are the reason that we are still innovating and we're not just large corporations. So, you know, if there's anything I can leave everyone with, it's make sure you make your kids realize, like, we need some unusual people in this world. We need misfits and outsiders. And you might feel confused, right? I'm talking about 37 years of my life. I'm still trying to figure out, you know, how to get comfortable in my skin. But if I was okay, if I was satisfied with the fact that I had this 8-figure acquisition of Junkluggers, then I would sit back and I would just relax right now. And that's the farthest thing in my life that I want to do. I want to give back to the community and I want to figure out ways to create a legacy. That's truly meaningful, deep, honest realness of what's going on in my life right now. So I love you all. Brandon, keep doing this podcast and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I love you all.